We're joined by Ripley Atkinson from Meat and Livestock Australia. Ripley, we're having a few holidays here and there and it's playing maybe a little bit of havoc on the markets.
Definitely so, Ricky. What we're seeing at the minute, because of these short selling weeks over the Easter long weekend and then with Anzac Day in a couple of weeks, it is playing a bit of a role in terms of the supply and the sales we're seeing running. But there are some positive signs across the sheep market, particularly in the mutton at the minute with improvements in prices.
Yeah, we've been hearing positives about the mutton, and we were looking at the trade lamb indicator thinking maybe it was rallying, but maybe a recent dip just at the latter part of this week.
It did come off on Wednesday, but it picked up after a strong sale at Wagga and a fairly strong yarding yesterday as well. But we have seen some other sale yards such as Ballarat in Victoria and also in Inverell in northwest New South Wales that have got some really strong prices too. So there are markets that are performing quite well. But, we did see it come off and then it recovered slightly on Thursday.
We do zero in on Wagga often here on the Flow Network. They've got high volumes always there at Wagga, so the prices you're saying have been pretty solid, notwithstanding the volumes? Yeah,
no, definitely so. So Wagga had 3,500 trade lambs yarded yesterday, and its price was in the top 10, and it's certainly found a bit of support and provided a bit of support for the overall market as well yesterday with that yarding. Despite that supply, it performed well, yes.
And what's driving that? Often there's a bit of processing action happening. Are we seeing solid demand at that end of the spectrum?
Very much so. So when you actually look at the processing numbers of lambs at the minute, they only actually came off 10% last week. So it's actually not that much. It's only around 40,000 head nationally. But in New South Wales particularly, we actually saw processors then jump in and process more sheep, and the lamb processing numbers only went down a little bit. So, yes, the processors are still operating quite strongly in what we typically see in April where slaughter numbers soften to a larger extent.
Now, you mentioned the disruptions with recent public holidays. I guess it's a bit hard to call. I was going to put on the limbo music. How low can you go when it comes to cattle? We're just still searching for a floor in the market.
Yeah, the market did find a bit of support this week. We particularly throughout New South Wales and parts of southern Queensland, did receive a very welcome autumn break, if you will, or rain over the Easter period, and that did provide some support this week to see the market pick up. So there are signs of improvement, but with such low throughput at the minute in most of the indicators, it is difficult to get an accurate and fair gauge of where the market's going. But we know rain certainly provided some confidence back into buying cattle.
Yeah, we've been covering what's happening in sheep and cattle, for years here on Flow, but it still is hard, isn't it, to detect when there's sort of traditionally a lift. We talk on the sheep side about the spring flush, but cattle is very much, is it victim to the weather?
The weather, as you rightly point out, is the major driver of the market, and there were signs in the past couple of weeks to months that there was confidence waning in the market, but we know from reports this week across multiple locations across the eastern seaboard right down into South Australia, some of that rain and confidence has returned to the market and propped up buyers' attitudes towards competing on cattle, which has seen those prices improve.
Yeah, that's a good note. We might finish there. We always like to finish with a bit of good news for our livestock producers. Ripley Atkinson from Meat and Livestock Australia, thanks for updating us today.
Thanks very much, Ricky.